financial transactions. The Social Democratic Front, SDF, is working on a comeback after a regression in its political gains as the strongest opposition party in Cameroon. With parliamentary and council seats lost, the decentralization accelerated. The Senatorial Elections investigates on the way forward. The countdown to the African Nations Football Championship Shan begins with the Cameroon Radio Television on the kickoff with its premium content unveiled in a 90-minute special program at the Multi-Purpose Sports Complex in Yaoundé. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 News.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
Welcome back. The Douala Shopping Mall Complex, the largest in Central Africa, has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Joseph John Goodtay. The commercial and leisure center with a supermarket, 140 shops, 22 restaurants and a multiplex cinema hall is a landmark achievement for Cameroon, which cements President Paul Biya's vision for the country. The mall is the fruit of a cooperation between craft contractors of Cameroon and the Actis British Group. Christian Chair Atam has the details.
The inauguration of the Shopping and Leisure Center by Prime Minister Joseph John Goodtay, representing the head of state, officially launches activities at the Douala Grand Mall, considered to be the biggest shopping center in Central Africa. The first phase of the project, which cost 50 billion francs, has equipped the complex with a supermarket, 140 shops and magazines, 22 restaurants, and a cinema complex. The first business structures to occupy the complex: insurance, telecom companies, and a giant supermarket. During the launching ceremony, the Prime Minister, speaking on behalf of the head of state, said the Douala Grand Mall is a milestone in Cameroon's drive towards economic takeoff. He said, coming a few days to the effective start of the African Continental Free Trade Zone, the commercial complex will help strengthen the position of Douala as a commercial hub in Africa. He equally said, by helping local products respect international norms, the mall will help improve the agro-industry in Cameroon, thereby improving the label Made in Cameroon, while reassuring the business community that the policies implemented by President Paul Biya are contributing to make Cameroon a stable market. He invited investors to explore the hospitality of the country. On behalf of the head of state, Prime Minister Joseph John Goodtay elevated Mr. Mathurin Kamdem, one of the initiators of the project, to the rank of Chancellor of the Cameroon Order of Valor.
The Grand Mall instituted today perfectly translates Cameroon's desire to attain emergence by 2035, as it provides an opportunity for the country's production prowess to be showcased to the world. With the African Continental Free Trade Area beginning on January 1, 2021, Prime Minister Joseph John Goodtay admitted will power economic growth. He called for the setting up of similar structures in the country. Here's an extract of the declaration after the inauguration.
The head of state, President Paul Biya, did say that we are going to attain the status of an emerging nation. And what we have seen here, just like what we saw in the visits to the different stadiums, is in this context, we are realizing that Cameroon is eventually getting to the status of an emergent nation. And it is thanks to his public policies that he has put in place, and we in government we are realizing. But it's also thanks to the vitality of our economy, to the attractiveness of our economy, and to the quality of the human resources we have in Cameroon. Here we have somebody who has Cameroonians who have conceived a project. They've brought in international partners and they have realized it, and it's a wonderful, beautiful project.
In other news, the state of Cameroon continues to lose billions of CFA francs to corruption, and the National Anti-Corruption Commission is determined to reduce the figures. In the country's anti-corruption status report presented today, over 24 billion CFA francs was mislaid by the scourge, but thanks to the toll-free number 1517, complaints have denounced offences that have been checked. Beatrice Losamba presents the striking revelations of the status report.
The most staggering revelation of the Anti-Corruption Status Report of 2019 is the over 24 billion CFA francs the state is said to have lost to corruption. That owing to the crime of officials of 10 public administrations and parastatals prosecuted by the Special Criminal Court, which did not fail to punish the offense. The report further reveals over 4,000 corruption cases exposed through the toll-free number 1517, which permitted the corruption fighters to be on page with what is happening in the backyard. The report states that 18% of the calls accuse finance officials on practices such as kickbacks on payments made in the Treasury, naming the Ministry of Finance the most denounced for corruption offenses. Another dark page of the corruption fight has been the low implementation rate of regional anti-corruption action plans. The North, considered best in execution, had only about 51% execution rate, with Adamawa at the tail of the list. The report states, having dwelt on 8 regions, given the prevailing unrest in the northwest and southwest regions.
According to index of perception of corruption in our country now, I can say that the fight against corruption is progressing very well.
The government's commitment to bringing corruption to light and the corrupt to justice has been hailed. The need to press on teaching integrity from school is also seen as a way out of the cankerworm that jeopardizes the economy.
The logging, processing and sale of timber in Cameroon is now guided by an official procedure on the award of contracts. This is stipulated in an interministerial order in conformity with the forestry law to check the illegal exploitation of Cameroon's wood and to protect local communities. Prince Will Mukwele Aduma presents the motivation of this government decision.
Cameroon's timber, selling itself in sizes and quantities, suffers losses to illegality. According to statistics, 3 out of 4 of these logs is unaccounted for, costing the state an estimated 100 billion CFA francs annually. This December 15, 2020 joint ministerial order therefore defines legally sourced timber. Legally sourced timber is timber whose exploitation and processing respects the legal procedures. Conditions for use are spelled out in Article 3 of the General Provisions. Government, with the support of its technical partners and actors of the private sector, engaged into a series of consultations in order to find a lasting solution to the phenomenon. The order we have here is a fruit of this dialogue, which aims at obliging all beneficiaries in the timber transaction chain to use legally sourced timber. The order that engages the Ministry of Public Contracts and Public Works in efforts of monitoring and certification led by the Ministry of Forestry aims at enabling
to a running series on the 2021 finance law. The fiscal revenue for the year is expected to come from sources like stamp duty on advertising to mobilize more financial resources, felling tax on wood activities, and a special tax regime to promote digital economy have been established. Clarice Aritakang has details on some of the reforms intended to improve on the business climate in Cameroon next year.
The fiscal deficit surplus may be carried forward for credit establishments of the state undergoing restructuring until the end of the 6th year following the deficit year. It is one of the changes to witness in 2021 regarding budgetary objectives. The move is expected to enable them get back on their feet. On the one hand, forestry companies with proof of good forest management practices will enjoy 3% felling tax, down from 4%, amongst a host of other taxes to be collected from the sector. On the other, a special tax on petroleum products will be making its entry into the system in 2021. Meanwhile, advertising in different forms will be subject to stamp duty, deducted from the cost of the service, with products like cigarettes and alcoholic drinks paying more. Regional taxes will also be coming from a number of sources besides those already enforced by the state. Taxes will equally be levied on tangible and intangible services in a broad range of fields and areas, from transport, entertainment, culture, to the know-how of consultants, intermediaries, accountants, data processing, and financial affairs. There will be new trends to witness. Special tax regimes have also been set up to promote and stimulate businesses of the domain. The same will play out for agriculture. These and other measures have as goal to improve the social and business climate in the country in 2021.
In other news, the Ngomjab Agro-Pastoral Show enters day 2 today to exhibit the rich agricultural prowess of the people of Nyong and So division of the Centre region. Farmers from 53 villages grouped under the Cultural Development Association Agora, headed by Minister Gregoire Owona, also used the fair to make brisk business. Lekiatu Gertrude Asongazi reports.
The first ever agro-pastoral forum holding in Ngomjab is intended for farmers in the area to show their farm produce and share knowledge on how to improve farm use. For 4 days, youths will be trained on involved in the cultivation of cocoa, yams, fish farming and animal husbandry.
We have cocoa that we transform here. We have chocolate and we have butter, and also we have the grain of chocolate that are there. In the other side, we have the plantain.
It should be noted that the Olama Kribi Road passes through Ngomjab in the Nyong and So division, which is one of the huge economic baskets of the Centre region. Reason why the Socio-Economic Forum has been organized to give more visibility to farmers and their products. To officially open the forum, where the ministers for trade, small and medium-sized enterprises, livestock, employment, and other partners.
As announced in one of our top stories, the Social Democratic Front, the SDF, is working on staging a political comeback as one of the fiercest opposition outfits in the country. The party's fortunes have been dwindling recently with the loss of both parliamentary and council seats. Ebenezer Akanga investigates and questions what the problem could be with the one-time leading opposition party in Cameroon.
Since 1992, that the SDF participated in elections for the first time, her political fortunes have been dwindling tremendously. In the October 11, 1992 presidential election, the SDF scored 35.93%. But in the last presidential election of October 7, 2018, the party scored only 3.15%. For parliamentary elections, the party won 43 seats in the elections of May 17, 1997 and won only 5 seats in the elections of February 9, 2020. For senatorial elections, the SDF won 14 seats in the elections of April 14, 2013 and 7 in the elections of March 25, 2018. For municipal elections, the party won 61 councils in the elections of January 21, 1996 and only 4 in the elections of February 9, 2020.
The government in place has done everything possible to get that political party weak. All political parties in Cameroon have their strongholds, and the SDF has their own strongholds in the northwest and southwest regions. The current crisis actually dispersed the militants. They have been using one political strategy over and over, and they have remained insensitive to the sentiments of their militants. Another thing would be arrogance. Let us be able to say that some of the top notch of the political party have adopted arrogance.
It's left to be seen whether the party will be able to regain its lost glory.
For the Social Democratic Front to regain its reputation in the political scene and activate the spirit of change it once heralded in Cameroonians, a couple of considerations are to be made. Some school of thought hold that the national chairman, Nijan Frudi, may have to review his manifesto, strategize political options and rethink its power to the slogan, "Power to the people," today absorbed by decentralization. Kilian Dandifon exchanges with a political scientist and now reports.
After losing political equilibrium, it's in the interest of the SDF to work for peace.
Influencing these dissident fighters to becoming more Republican by being law-abiding and fearing will help all of them, in fact, to be able to opt for the most negotiating way.
SDF's slogan of power to the people seems obsolete.
It is a spirit of decentralization in a unitary state that is promoted by the Cameroon People's Democratic Party that is gaining ground.
Boycott and absentee policy has not helped in 30 years of politicking.
When you are a political party that do not go for elections, how do you think, how do you imagine, how do you wish to be able to win power and maintain it for as long as you wish?
Rejuvenation is an option in politics.
It could be an opportunity for the SDF to redissolve itself and come out anew.
In politics, interest imposes the way forward.
She may get into a political alliance to set up a new political path to re-emerge or bounce back.
To regain a leading political role, the SDF has a difficult homework.
In other news, the National Commission for the Promotion of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism is assessing the impact made in 2020 to encourage the equal use of the two official languages in Cameroon. During the Commission's biannual session today, the chair, Peter Mafani Musange, gave a balance sheet of the activities and outlined the 2021 vision, which includes the setting up of regional offices. Joyce Kimbi Fuwaju tells us more.
Adequate strategies were carved out to circumvent COVID-19 and proceed with its key obligation in promoting bilingualism and multiculturalism on a positive note.
We went down to the ministries to evaluate the application of the law on the promotion of official languages. We also to the region of the north and to the region of the far north to listen to the people. The reason for the law on the promotion of official languages.
Perspective, the ordinary session adopted to lay more emphasis in the coming year on the fight against hate speech and spreading its antenna across Cameroon.
We're going to try to install effectively our regional services. The fight against hate speech is going to continue.
It's important to note that the Mosonge Commission has, for its 3 years of existence, succeeded in raising awareness amongst Cameroonians on the use of English and French, for instance, in public offices.
While the Commission works to promote multiculturalism, a book on the issue has been authored by Professor Reverend Father Jean-Marie Bodo. The 197-page book, prefaced by President Paul Biya, is titled Le multiculturalisme camerounais et sa praxis quotidienne. It presents the diversity and multicultural nature of Cameroon, an asset to be preserved for posterity. Emmanuel Avenue perused the book for the 7:30 News.
You to others than your differences. This is the main message running through the 195-page book, Le culturalisme camerounais et sa praxis quotidienne of Professor Reverend Father Jean-Marie Bodo.
When you analyze these cultures, you see that what they have in common is more than the differences.
After a review of what prominent authors have written on multiculturalism around the globe, the professor of sociology and president of the Multiculturalism Work Group in the Commission for Bilingualism and Multiculturalism concludes that Cameroon's diversity is unique and is more of a blessing than a curse.
Show that what we have in common is an enrichment.
Prefaced by the President of the Republic, Paul Biya, and post-faced by the President of the Bilingual and Multiculturalism Commission, Peter Mafani Musange, the book proposes that the way forward for an integral multiculturalism hinges on the educational system, beliefs,
and now on to this human interest story. There is an illusionary trade union which is trending on social media, purportedly calling on all men to offer not more than 2,000 francs to women after a date. Many Cameroonians are at a loss on the veracity of such a grouping and who its members are. How true is the assertion and what are the arguments raised in different platforms? Constantine Baum attempts an answer.
I was told in the streets of Yaoundé that in our Cameroonian setting, men always provide transport fare to the ladies after a date. The end of year celebrations are loaded with such dates and they might create problems for men. That is why the social media trade union defending men is stepping up to address the issue, insisting that no woman gets more than 2,000 francs for transport after a date.
The syndicate is good. Some ladies do exaggerate. At least that if you take them out, they can finish a crate of beginners. At least they have a point.
Some say 2,000 francs for transport is too small.
It's better to raise the amount around 5,000.
He might be having fines to pay for going against the union. However, many know that there is no such trade union, but what is trending on social media reflects the society.
Ladies equally are already taking it as serious, and are equally threatening us to create their own syndicate.
The views of a sociologist on the debate.
It is a way for male to cry about the way female are treating them, particularly during this feast period of the end of the year.
The debate which women are now much involved might not end too soon, as women have started their own social media union downplaying the 2,000 francs. And the debate now is going across borders with the creative minds of the debaters using whatever platform to push for ideas. Interesting indeed. Let's wait and see how it ends.
The wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
The regular washing of hands with soap and running water is one of the most effective ways to keep the coronavirus at bay. This is followed by the use of hand sanitizers or hydroalcoholic gels. Tonight we present how reliable both COVID-19 barrier measures are and if they can be substituted. Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center, tell us how possible this is. Hello, Baldwin.
Good evening to you, Esther, KIMA. It becomes quite confusing at times for some Cameroonians whether to believe on the regular washing of hands or the use of hand sanitizer as one of these barrier measures against the spread of the coronavirus. We get to discuss that tonight with our guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam, a virologist. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
More often than not, some people believe in handshaking before they sanitize their hands. Others believe in sanitizing their hands before shaking hands with persons. The regular washing of hands and the use of hand sanitizer, how important are both of them, and when or how regular should they be practiced?
Effectively, Baldwin, during this period of COVID-19, we have observed many cases of Cameroonians who no more practice handshaking as one of the major barrier measures for COVID-19. However, there is what we call fomite transmission of coronavirus, meaning that coronavirus might stay on the work surface, and if your hands get to that surface and goes back to your face, you may easily infect yourself. So people thought without handshaking, they may be free to touch their face or maybe not to use hand sanitizer or also our normal soap and water at home. So what we really want people to know is that you may also get in contact with the virus even just by touching any issue in the environment. And that's why on a regular basis, make sure if you are at home, you should use water and a generous amount of soap to wash your hands for about 20 to 30 seconds. That's highly enough. But now, if you are within the community where you don't have access to water and soap, then you can use an alcohol-based hand sanitizer.
Thank you so much for always being available as a guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam. You got all those words from him. We should regularly respect all these outlined barrier measures so as to be able to limit the spread of the coronavirus. Back to you, Esther KIMA.
Thanks, Baldwin Summer, for that clarification. Hand washing and the use of hydroalcoholic gels can be substituted depending on the situation. Still in health, a budgetary session that grouped the board members of CRASER, led by the President, André Mamafuda, has endorsed the sum of 3 billion CFA francs for 2021. The board also approved the creation of a permanent follow-up committee comprising 9 experts in gynecology and obstetrics from Africa and Europe to ensure training and research programs at the institution. Staff lady Enanga Kebi tells us more.
Highly solicited around the sub-region and beyond by women and couples with procreation problems, there is need to increase the technical platform of the hospital with the new budget worth 3 billion CFA francs.
We are going to do our best to respect this budget. We are going to extend the hospital and try to strengthen capacity in all the areas of the hospital. Cancerology, IVF procedures will be reinforced, and surgical procedure too.
In this regard, the board approved the creation of a permanent committee for the follow-up of practical training and research in gynecology and obstetrics. The 9-man committee of experts from Africa and Europe will be under the coordination of Professor Jean-Marie Cassia. The board members also seized the opportunity to congratulate Dr. Noan Dua-Claude Cyril, a product of CRASE, who scored brilliantly in the competitive exam for African gynecologists. Today, he is a full professor. The wish of Mrs. Chantal Bia for an active and informed youth is a reality with CRASE.
Now, on today's sad note, the mortal remains of Rene Jacques Wungli Magasaga, a politician and one-time Secretary General of the UPC between 1982 to 1990, have been coffined today at the morgue of the Yaoundé General Hospital. Constantine Baum attending the coffin ceremony and now reports.
His final journey from the earth starts here at the morgue of Yaoundé General Hospital. Very little is known of René Jacques Wungli Masaka as a mathematician. He actually enrolled at the Sorbonne in 1960 to prepare a doctorate thesis in mathematics, but that was interrupted by his expulsion from France on February 11, 1961, following a demonstration of African students on the Champs-Élysées aiming to denounce the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. Back in Cameroon, he became administrative secretary of the UPC, main collaborator of Ernest Wanze. That is why many who have come to pay the last homage said he was a nationalist fighter and a one-time SJ of UPC between 1982 to 1990.
Who knows very well Wungli Masaga, the one who fought for the respect of the sovereignty of this nation.
And the new generation of UPC is the Masaga Works. It was a man who works every time, every day.
He was born on January 1936 in Yaoundé and died on October 17, 2020. He will be buried in Lolodov this Saturday.
And on today's advertorial, pupils and teachers of École Maternelle Bonabéry have expressed their gratitude to the BGFI Foundation following the renovation of its school premises and scholarships awarded to support the less privileged. Mercy Ashu tells us more from Douala.
The year 2020 seems to have ended on a good note for pupils and the teaching staff of École Maternelle Bonabéry as they beamed with smiles and regaled with dance steps to express their gratitude to the BGFI Foundation, whose objective as a bank is to give back annually to the less privileged in the areas of health and education, for example.
In regards to our social corporate responsibility, because every year BGFI Foundation has the obligation to meet out to the less privileged as our corporate social responsibility action. So that's why we are visiting École Maternelle Bonabéry today. When we came here, the school was in a depression. There were no roofs, the chairs, the doors, the benches, everything was in a bad state. So with the okay of my hierarchy, we had to redo all the rooms, the chairs, and make the environment very comfortable for the kids. Today we are very proud to say the kids have a comfortable environment to study.
According to the managing director, Abakal Mahamat, this move, already in its 6th edition, should go a long way to encourage the teaching staff and create a user-friendly study environment. Also present at the event, characterized by the donation of Christmas gifts by Santa Claus, was the quarter head and subdivisional officer of Douala 4.
And as we announced in one of our top stories, the Cameroon Radio Television CRTV has launched its countdown to the African Nations Championship, the CHAN. The kickoff was done in a 90-minute program yesterday at the Multipurpose Sports Complex under the supervision of CRTV's Director General Sean Dongo. Baldwin Sama has details of the enticing content and the side attractions.
Last-minute consultation between the two presenters, Benin Bumagana and Evelyn Owuna Esomba, exchanging ideas as to how to make their presentation smooth. They are assisted by their producer, Raymond Joya Lindo. Next to them were live updates on a bilingual newscast from the Multipurpose Sports Complex under the watchful eyes of some CRTV staff of the central services already present at the Multipurpose Sports Complex and anxiously waiting. The pressure and urge to succeed is felt as the TV newsroom director, Madeleine Sopi-Kotor, supervises last details. And here comes Sports and Physical Education Minister Professor Narcisse Mole Kombi, who is reassured by CRTV's top management that everything is set and will succeed. The anxiety is telling on the faces of these kids and former footballers waiting to discover CRTV's coverage plan. As CRTV's Director General Sharon Dongo, captain of CRTV, arrives, he reassures his guests of the structure's readiness, ready to live up to expectations. With the different guests seated and the kickoff given for 90 minutes of CRTV's foretaste of how its coverage of the 2020 African Nations Championship will look like.
And that will be all for this edition of the 7:30 News, in which you mainly heard that the biggest commercial and leisure center in Central Africa has been inaugurated by Prime Minister Joseph John Gute. It is the Grand Douala Mall, a landmark achievement for Cameroon, which will boost economic and foster financial change in the country. More news comes up at 8:30 p.m. with Adel Mbala. Tomorrow, you'll be in the company of Benin Bumagana. I'll be back subsequently. Good night. Stay tuned to our programs.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.